Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the I Do Wedding Marketing podcast. I am really excited for today's episode because we have somebody who is a part of my world. Emily Rochotte is joining us, and she is a content writer, social media manager, and speaker who has spent the last 10 years working with wedding professionals and publications. Most recently, she can add being my savior to that list. Once I met Emily and realized that I could just have somebody to talk about the things that she and I both deal with day to day, I have taken advantage of it and I blow up her messages. But Emily entered the wedding world in a different way than I did. She started with a college internship at the Knot. How cool is that? And has been immersed in the industry ever since. She loves working with creatives, like all of you listening here, to build brand awareness and to grow your business with the help of standout content. We're all about that. Her work has been featured across numerous publications, including The Knot, Brides, and BizBash, to name a few. I love that. She's passionate about cheering on entrepreneurs, which I have experienced firsthand. And no, sometimes it just takes a second set of eyes to remind you that you are creating something truly incredible. Emily, how are you doing?
Great, Nina. I'm so excited to be here and talk with you today.
Me too, because I don't think you realize, I thought it was like it's gonna be dramatic to introduce her by saying Emily has saved my life. But
I think, I love it. I'm here for it, but I think, you're giving yourself not enough credit because you're saving mine too. It's so helpful to just, be reminded that we're all going through the same thing. And also, everybody listening, like Nina's not alone. Like we are all, what Nina's saying is what we're all experiencing and what we're all doing. So
yeah, now we mentioned how you started with an internship with the Knot. Can you tell us what about the wedding industry and your background made you decide to stick with it as a social media manager?
yeah, so when I was in college, I wanted to get into advertising. I was a marketing major, Spanish minor. Wanted to do advertising, thought about, different avenues of marketing, had a PR internship at the Knot. So all of their brands, the bump, all of that, but was really loving the content that they were putting out. And at one point, it was the fall semester of my senior year. And at one point I was like, I think I might want to do wedding planning. I was heavily involved in campus activities and planning those. And I liked weddings and I liked planning. So I was like, this sounds great. But I really liked the content they were doing. And so I took a journalism class at the end of college and I started writing for my school paper. And from there, my last semester, I got an internship with what at the time was known as How He Asked. Now the Knot owns it. It's How They Asked. It's an engagement and proposal website. So it was just me and their founder Stacy at her kitchen table during my internship, which turned into my first job after college. So I was doing that part time, and I was starting to just expand writing and working with wedding pros. And so I've worked for multiple digital wedding platforms since, and written for a variety of them and also wedding professionals. And so, working with small teams, I was able to focus on the blogging and the online content and also their social media presence. And so, combining that together is how we got here. And so, I have been in the wedding industry ever since. I never went into print ads like I originally at one time planned, but here we are, and I love it. I'm so happy to be here. I love weddings, and I love being able to help small business owners with their social media.
Yeah, and I had no idea the Knot owned How They Asked. So
Yeah, they bought it in 2016, 2017, around that time.
wow.
Yeah.
I really had no idea. So that I learned something too here. And I think since that time to now, we have seen our topic really explode, which is short form video content. Why is that something wedding professionals need to consider for their marketing?
I mean, a million reasons. How much time do you have? I think it really comes down to, I'm not saying that short form video should replace photos. Like, I'm not here to be like, make videos all the time and never post a photo. That's not it. I think that it takes your photos to the next level because for wedding professionals, it's such a visual business and it's what people want to see. They want to know what they're going to get out of working with you. And photos are really great for that. but videos take it to the next level. If it's videos of you providing education, they're not only learning something by you creating that relationship through their camera, they're also just like starting to understand what it's like to work with you, because at the end of the day, you spend a lot of time with them and they're very invested in your personality and who you are. So it's making that connection, and it's taking those, Pinterest worthy images and kind of bringing them to life. What I see is beautiful. That's really great. And I can identify that I want you to create something like that for me. But a video behind the scenes or at the wedding itself, like, really immerses me in it and helps me feel like, what am I going to get as the couple? Like, what is it going to feel walking into my reception? What is it going to feel like seeing that centerpiece on the table? What is it going to feel like when I do my grand entrance into this venue or walk down the aisle? So video, I think, takes everything to the next level and really helps people begin to feel beyond just see what it is that they're going to get.
I agree. I also feel it kind of establishes a comfort level between the client and the brand, because it can be nerve-wracking, because in our industry especially, it's going to be expensive what you're going to be asking about. And so if you could start to get comfortable with that brand, I think that must really help too.
Yeah, I think it's huge for building relationships. And so I know so many people are like, I don't want to be on camera, I don't want to show
Hmm.
myself, but people are really looking for that connection. They are spending a lot of money, and it's scary to give your money away, but it's even scarier to give it to somebody who you don't really know that well. And so if you can
Hmm.
start to build that trust with them, like one-on-one through the screen before you even have your discovery call, you're already putting yourself in a much better place to connect with them or not connect with them, and
Hmm.
save yourself those leads, and save yourself all of that if they find that, you're just not the vibe for them.
Yeah. So we have two scenarios. There's the client who says they don't want to be on camera, and then there's the client who says, well, I'm not on site at the wedding. What advice do you have for those two types regarding having short form video content?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're in both of those camps, it is going to be a little bit more challenging, but that doesn't mean it can't be done. For the people who don't want to be on camera, a few things. First of all, no one's judging you as harshly as you're judging yourself. I will give an example that literally just happened. I just put an Instagram story up and I was judging myself pretty hard on it. I didn't like the way that I looked and all of that. And my friend messaged me and she was like, totally irrelevant to this video, but your teeth look so good. And I had just been so hard on myself about them while I had posted this. So people aren't like, they're not criticizing you the way that you think that they are or the way that you are. So if that's what's holding you back from video, like, please start doing it. Start noticing when you're watching content how much you're not tearing apart what's happening in the background of their video, or what they look like, or if a hair was out of place. You're not doing it, so people aren't doing it to you. And I do encourage you to show up as yourself, because the thing is, it's not like couples are never going to see you. They're going to see you during discovery calls. They're going to see you on the wedding day, even if you're just there to deliver whatever it is you've created. There's a relationship there. And so don't be afraid to be yourself, because you're really wonderful and you have something really incredible to offer, and how you show up on camera doesn't impact what you offer. But then also, for the people who aren't there on the wedding day, the face to camera educational content is incredibly valuable, but also showing what it is that you are working on or what you create. What is the behind the scenes process of creating that invitation suite, or what's happening on your computer as you're designing those invitations, or creating a floor plan for the wedding, or what goes into going to purchase those flowers to make that bouquet or that centerpiece. There's so much that we can show that we don't even need to be there for the wedding. And so, yes, we want to connect our vendors and get that video content, especially if you are not actually present on the wedding day for whatever it is that you've created for that wedding. um, but also making sure that you're showing what goes into it, because that is such a huge part of it. It's not just about what it looks like the day of. It's do I know that you're doing the work, and how much, love and care and effort are you putting into what you're creating?
I love it. There's so much that you covered with that. That let's make almost like a little timeline of it. So you could show behind the scenes as you're actually creating the service.
Hmm.
You could show kind of just talking face to camera about, how you do it, or FAQs, pull information from your website, or get inspiration from things people have asked you. My hack for that is as I was getting comfortable with it, if I was going live, I would make sure all my siblings knew and I'd force them to come on. I actually still do that. Or if I was posting something, then I sent it to all of them and it was like, leave a comment or just like this. So I feel better. So kind of going into your team, what else, uh, timeline wise, would you say? Kind of just mapping it out, everything.
I really say, honestly, film everything. The worst that
Mhm.
happens is that you don't have content or you have too much content and you don't use it, but you don't want to ever be in a spot where somebody asks you a question and you're like, oh, I really could have answered that with a video. Like, even if, let's say, you're a florist, film yourself getting that floral arrangement in the car. What goes into
Mhm.
transporting my cake safely to the venue?
Yeah.
And, is it strapped in? Like, what does that look like? It may not seem like anything that people want to know, but they do. They want to know what's going into getting things places. They want to know, is my cake gonna arrive safely? Oh, well, I know if I work with so and so that it's going to, because look at this, thing that they've built in the back of their truck so that it doesn't move around.
Mhm.
Um, Really film every step of the process, even no matter how no matter how minor it feels, because you can use it as something later. Even if it's literally just you working on your computer, that's excellent B-roll footage to put text over to share a tip or share information about what it is that you're doing on the screen that you're filming.
Perfect. So let's say we've inspired somebody listening that they're going to prop up their phone, do it now while you're listening, or next time you're checking your mail, record yourself. And do you have any recommended tools or apps or even tricks for editing that video content?
Yeah, I mean, really all you need is a phone. And we're going to talk about like apps and things. There are definitely ways to enhance that content, but I find that people are like, I don't have the right setup, I don't have the right light, I don't have this, I don't have that. But really all you need is a phone and a window, or to be outside, or people again are not judging the
Mm.
background that you're coming from. It's really just about being in something that's well lit. Because that bright, if you're in a room that's dark, that's not going to draw in as much attention. But even your car, somehow the car just always seems
Yes.
to have the best lighting. It doesn't matter where you are, it's just like magic. And so, even if you're just filming with your phone propped up on your steering wheel while you're parked in the car. Um, but in terms of tools, if you're propping it up on your desk, or a great way would just to be get like a little desk tripod, or a ring light that you can attach it to, or even if let's say you're a stationer or a florist and you're really working on a table, they make ring light tripod setups that kind of fold to be like parallel to your workspace. So it's really filming like an overhead view, and you can use both hands, and you're not really holding the camera, and you can work on what you're doing. So I would recommend one of those if you're somebody who is really heavily filming content not on the wedding day. If you wanted fancy tools to film content on the wedding day, they do make attachments to connect your phone to your camera if you're a photographer, or, they call them gimbals. It's like a little handheld
Yeah.
thing to stabilize your phone so it's not just like shaky video of you trying to like pan the room while you're also trying to do a million other like wedding planning tasks at the same time. So those are a variety of tools, but again, not necessary in the way of, oh, I can't do this because I haven't gotten this yet, or I can't film because I haven't gotten my ring light yet, or whatever it is. A lot of times those tools are just excuses, but they can be helpful, and I'm not going to discount them. They're definitely like the next level of content
Mhm.
creation, but not something you absolutely need to have. And in terms of apps and editing, once you've created that content, I you don't need any fancy software. Again, I think people are like, oh, I need, heavy video editing software, but really it's like CapCut, InShot, Canva. Canva's got really great video editing, and I find that a lot of people are already using that for other marketing tasks. So if you already have that, that's a great way to edit your videos.
Great tips. And I love what you said about the lighting. I'm in an apartment building, so my space is smaller and it can be limiting, but the building is brick. So sometimes I'll go on the balcony or go downstairs and stand in front of the brick wall, and it can give me a background I don't have to worry about and gives me some lighting. So with that being said, that, we don't have to go nuts other than just looking for lighting, do you feel that it is even necessary to edit our videos?
Great question. I think we first need to establish what we mean by editing because everybody thinks something different. And so when it comes to editing, I think there's several different ways to look at it. Are we just, cutting the clips to be shorter or cutting out things that we've said? Or are we editing as in putting filters on it? Are we editing in like a professional setting of, color saturation and really getting deep with that kind of editing? Or, are we editing by but just putting text on the screen and finalizing the video that way? So I think that there can be benefit to editing if you're somebody who wants to film in one take and then there's a lot of pauses, or you're kind of lingering, kind of like what I'm doing right now, like that kind of stuff you want to cut out. And that also creates jump cuts, which is a more attractive viewing process for a lot of people on social media. It can seem like, oh, that seems choppy, it doesn't flow, but it
Mhm.
makes the clips have a little bit of movement and it makes things move along a little bit quicker. So it kind of draws more attention in. That doesn't mean you have to do it that way. You can do all one take, and that's great too. We just want to optimize the time that we're taking up in a short form video. And so you'll typically want to chop off the first half a second and the end when you're like hitting the record button or whatever it is. But in terms of heavily editing, like things like brightness and color saturation and all of that, if that's not something that you typically do, that's not you're not a video editor, I wouldn't start trying to play around with that. Social media videos are not necessarily looking for professional quality video. Now that's all different if you're a videographer, of course, but there you have the tools and you already have the video, and so you're good to go on that. It's just about editing it to be a vertical video, because when we are talking about short form videos, we're typically talking vertical, and if you have a horizontal video, you may want to edit it to change the crop and how it's filling the screen. But in terms of editing and putting things like those generic filters on it, where you just kind of swipe through and it puts one over the whole video, I would really, really steer away from that. I would steer away from, the ones that kind of add like glitter or anything, that just like detracts from what's going on. I find that people think that the glitter filters or sparkle filters or makeup filters are enhancing the video, and really they're distracting. They're taking away from what you're saying, they're taking away from the message. People who really know you are like, well, they don't look like that. Like that's a heavily edited filter. And I think a lot of people think it's helping. It helps them feel better about showing up on camera, but it really is detracting from what's happening in that video. The only time I would recommend those kinds of filters is I see if people are doing role plays on things like TikTok where they're like pretending to be multiple characters in a conversation. So let's say as a wedding professional, you were like creating an interview, like an interview or discovery call situation with your client. People use those filters to like pretend to be different characters. That's where I think it's okay. But in terms of filtering content and editing it that way, I would steer away from that as much as possible. And really just make sure that you're editing clips to be a specific length, that's the best kind of content you can consume, because nobody wants to sit there and watch you kind of take time and draw out your thought. We want to be as succinct as possible.
And I see that the most I notice it on TikTok. And that's because when you're scrolling on TikTok, especially, but really Instagram or either of those, as you're scrolling quick, you really just listen to that first half a second before you move on. So if that in that first second you just hear it's taking the breath,
Yeah.
you may not stick with it. And so as you notice this, you'll see TikTok videos where the person is talking like this and it starts right away. And that's because they're trying to really fit everything and start with that hook right away. So I think that was a great tip. And if there's anything worth editing, which is all stuff you can do within the apps, which we'll talk about, it's that first that first second, because I notice for me it's always the taking the breath. You start off going, hey guys, even taking out the hey guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, we don't even need to people introduce themselves later. They'll give you that little hook, and then
Mhm.
they'll be like, "I'm also a wedding planner in the Dallas area, blah, 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 whatever." But they give you the information that you're gonna talk about first, and I think that social media short form video has transformed the way that we speak a little bit. I know I am definitely guilty of talking a little bit too fast at times, for sure. But I also find that people want to consume it that way. TikTok just released a feature recently where you can hold down parts of the screen and it will put the video on 2x so you can watch it even
Wow.
quicker. YouTube has had that feature for a long time. You can speed up videos. People want to consume more quickly, and especially if you're somebody who talks, at a pace that might be a little bit slower than what people want to consume. It allows people to consume your content in a way that is best for their brain and their consumption. We can't just assume that everybody wants to consume content at the same pace, but there is a reason that people are talking faster. They just want to get it all in a short form video. But that also, if you find that you're speed talking all the time, it might be time to take some of the ideas out of the video and turn it into multiple videos as opposed to just one long. Let me rush through all these tips. It's just one tip at a time is helpful.
Yeah, I'll give an example. If I was to do a reel about this podcast, rather than doing it going, hey guys, so I had Emily Rochotte on the I Do Wedding Marketing podcast. Instead, what I would do is say, wedding businesses, short form video content's going to change how you book. I had Emily Rochotte on, and then that's how you would hook it. Hopefully that
Yeah.
gets the approval from Emily.
Yeah.
What I do?
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely correct. You're hooking the people in, and then you're talking about what it is, or you're establishing who you are and why you are the authority to talk about it.
So now that we have those examples of the content, where should wedding professionals be posting?
Great question. Wedding professionals should be posting in places that they can maintain posting. I'm not going to tell you to show up on every single platform that's ever existed to try to reach as many people as possible. It's where you can maintain showing up on a regular basis while also diversifying where you're showing up. And so I will personally recommend TikTok always. I'm a firm believer that that is the best way to reach new clients because it's not just a social media, it's also a search engine, and people are searching for wedding planning content and wedding related content. But at a minimum, I'm sure you're most likely, if you're listening to this podcast, using Facebook and Instagram. And while that's really great, we want to make sure that we're diversifying beyond just Meta. Because anything can disappear at any time. At the time of recording this, like we just had that huge Meta outage this week. And so not only did you lose Facebook, but you also lost Instagram and Threads. And so if those were your primary sources, you had nothing else to rely on. And so we want to make sure that we are showing up on different companies. So I'm not going to say don't use Facebook or Instagram. That's not it at all. But also making sure that you're on TikTok or that you're on Pinterest because, Pinterest could crash or TikTok could go away. And you want to have those backups. And also making sure that you are building an email list and you are blogging and you are doing all those things, but making sure that you are on several different social media platforms, um, so that you don't risk losing your content and saving everything. I mean, I will tell you right now, you want to be recording everything as much as possible outside of the app. Record it on the camera on your phone and let it live on your phone and then edit it and then post it to these apps so that you have everything. If Instagram were to go down or you were to lose all your TikTok videos, you would still have the original and you'd still be able to repost it to a new account or do something else with it.
Yes, that's so great that you mentioned that because when that outage was down, you no longer had access to it. And we sometimes we get very entitled with Meta because we think, well, that's our content. Well, it's really not. We uploaded it there. We get to use this platform for free to market ourselves. So we're not kind of entitled to that whole backlog. You have to be responsible for keeping track of it. I like to use a site, it's called inflact.com, and I'll use that to download reels I've uploaded or TikTok. So I definitely recommend making almost like a weekend project of it. And as you do it, upload them to either Pinterest or TikTok,
Yeah.
the two you mentioned there. So I know as social media marketers, we've chatted a lot about Gen Z, specifically because we're social media marketers in the wedding industry. So everybody's kind of like Gen Z, they're coming. Like it almost feels like a horror movie. Like, like what do we do? And the reason why I think you and I are panicking is that when we look at the top ranked apps for Gen Z, it's YouTube and Snapchat. It's not even what we're all thinking, which is always TikTok. So can you talk about YouTube and Snapchat a little bit?
Yeah. Gen Z is coming like a horror film. That's so funny. And it's not even that, they're here. I mean, the oldest of
Mhm.
Gen Z is turning 26 this year. So, there is a chunk of Gen Z that's getting married or it may already even be married. So people who are kind of averse to Gen Z, this is your time to listen and say, I can't be averse to them anymore. They're here, they're my future clients. And I worry that in a few years, we're going to be hearing from people confused about why they're not getting inquiries or what's happening. And it might be because you haven't started now investing in messaging to Gen Z. So in terms of reaching them on other platforms like YouTube Shorts and Snapchat, it's about being authentic to the platform that you're on. So yeah, Gen Z is using Snapchat. They love Snapchat. If you've seen Snapchat commercials recently, I think there was even one during the Super Bowl. Their messaging is less social media, more Snapchat. So Snapchat's trying to position itself not even as a social media, but in terms of how you can show up on there, they're using it, Gen Z is using it to connect with their friends, to chat with their friends. They're using it to text and send pictures and keep their snap streaks up, as it's called, where you just like every day are sending each other content. But that's like content of themselves. It's not necessarily like sharing like you'd share an Instagram post. So there is a feed on Snapchat similar to like the For You page on TikTok. And there are channels that publications and businesses have, but it's a lot harder to break into than other platforms. And so I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm saying that if you aren't already doing it and you're like, I have limited time and resources, that is not where I would recommend going. Yes, we hear that Gen Z is there, but they're not there looking for the content that we're putting out. If you wanted to break into Snapchat, I would recommend that your best avenue to do that would be an influencer campaign. People are consuming a lot of influencer content on Snapchat. And so partnering with an influencer to do an influencer campaign that way would be the best way to break into Snapchat with your brand and reach people in an authentic manner. Same with YouTube Shorts. It's about, again, the buzzword of authenticity. I keep using it, but you want to create content that's authentic to the platform. I find that YouTube Shorts, I'm seeing content of people who are already established making long form content. So, are you considering long form content? If you're a videographer, absolutely, you've got a whole wedding video to post. If you are a different kind of wedding professional, I wouldn't rule out long form video and then promoting that with short form video on YouTube. You could do a venue tour of your own venue or venues that you want to work with or have shot at or have designed for. You could film your process. You could do a Q&A. And then, if you are really making that content, like Nina said, and saving it and organizing it and owning it, you can take the content that you're creating for things like Instagram or TikTok and try YouTube Shorts. But again, if you're starting from scratch right now and you're just like, I want to get on another platform, I personally would recommend TikTok. I think that's kind of your best bet in terms of being able to reach people and have people be searching for what it is that you offer. But I would rank it as TikTok and then YouTube Shorts and then Snapchat. It's not to say it can't be done on any of those platforms, but Snapchat is going to be the hardest to break into to reach Gen Z. Just because they're, like I said, just because they're there doesn't mean that's what
Mhm.
they're specifically looking for. Whereas we know that they're searching for lifestyle content on TikTok already.
Great, and that makes me feel a little better. Like I don't need to learn Snapchat. I can just kind of put it on the back burner. Or if I wanted to do it, hook up with an influencer who already knows Snapchat
Yeah.
and let them kind of
We don't
do
need
it
to
for
be
me.
everywhere all of the time. We just need to be in enough places where people can easily find us.
So I was, as you were talking about YouTube Shorts, I want to ask you if this would work how I think it might. So let's say we are, uh, set up either a flower wall or a photo booth at a venue, and we had taken a reel. And we download that reel and we post it to YouTube Shorts and we put the venue we were at in the title. Would that help when people search that venue? Because sometimes YouTube comes up on Google. Would that potentially help with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now Google is prioritizing more the long form videos, and
Okay.
also TikToks are coming up in Google searches. That's not to say a short won't. I just don't see it. I just don't see it as much. But, everything evolves. And so there was a time when TikToks weren't showing up in Google search, or, YouTube wasn't what it once was. Or if we want to go all the way back, like there was a time when Facebook was a primary lead generator and it's not the way that it used to be. So there is something to be said about someone who is investing time in something to see how it plays out. I find the wedding industry specifically, we are tend to sometimes be later to adapt to things. And, once something gets really big, then it's like, oh, we need to be there. Like Instagram or TikTok, oh, do I need to do this? I don't know. This thing is really working for me, especially if you have a lead generator that is working for you. I find that some people are very heavily reliant on, I get all my clients from word of mouth, so I don't need to spend time on social media. Or, my email list is really growing, and I don't need this, or I don't need to do that. So I recommend trying things. Um but I don't recommend, spending all of your time on it. So, yes, YouTube Shorts, I think that will be great for helping you, get your name out there, and help with rankings, but not in a way where I would be spending all my time being like, how can I optimize this? Can I get this video to rank? What can I be doing? Obviously, we want to learn the basics, and we want to do our best to optimize all kinds of content we're creating, not just YouTube, but not in a way where any one platform is consuming all of our time on social media.
Hmm. So, with that being said, is there a process or a way wedding professionals can determine what platforms they should be using?
Yeah, I think it comes down to, first of all, ask yourself what you're using, not because just because you're using it means everybody's there, but where is your baseline level of comfort? And then what is going to be the next easiest step to kind of step out of that comfort zone? So, for example, if you are already making reels on TikTok or reels on Instagram, your next comfort zone step might be TikTok, because you've already seen, even if you haven't been on TikTok yet, you've seen a lot of TikTok content over on Reels. If you're somebody who, you're already on Facebook and Instagram, but you personally, you consume a lot of YouTube content. You're familiar with the video styles and what you like. And so that might be your next step, is to try making YouTube shorts or long form YouTube video content. But really it comes down to, where are you most comfortable and what are people using? If you are a brand new business, like super brand new, and you haven't even like started social media yet, and you're just like, what do I even do? I mean, Instagram is always going to be your go-to. It's going to be your baseline, I think, but also, like I said, diversifying beyond just Meta. And so, I would start with Instagram, and I would start with TikTok again, because so many of the TikTok features overlap with Instagram, and you can also put photos on TikTok and make photo carousels. Similar-ish to the ones that you're making on Instagram. So the transition from one platform to another is going to be your lowest lift. But it really comes down to comfort and what you can maintain. Don't spread yourself too thin. I mean, we never want people to find your social platform and be like, oh, they haven't posted a YouTube video in like 6 years. They must not exist anymore. So making sure that you're cognizant of that, and mm, putting up messaging if you're no longer doing that. Like, you may have some really great YouTube videos you made 6 years ago, and you don't want them to go away, but you need to make sure that people know in the, caption of that video, like, oh, you can find us on Instagram, or you can find us on our website. We'd never want people to think you're out of business.
Yes, some great examples I've seen of that is sometimes I'll notice venues will make a weddings account, or let's say they're owned by a bigger hospitality platform. And so once upon a time, they had that weddings account, and then in the bio, they'll put follow us now at. Just a little something so people can see it. But you gave really good advice of the natural progression of staying where you're comfortable. Because if you're doing this on your own, you have to be able to maintain what you're doing. But if you're looking to no longer do this on your own, Emily, how could people listening work with you?
Yeah, you can find me on my website or my Instagram or my TikTok. It's all Emily Rochotte, Rochotte. And you can find me there, emilyrochotte.com, or Emily Rochotte on Instagram or TikTok. And send me a message. I'm always happy to answer questions and help people with whatever it is that they need.
Yeah, she's always there. I can attest whenever I have a social media breakdown. So I have a bonus round of some just kind of
I'm
quick
ready.
answers. So the best weddings have.
The best weddings have what's important to the couple. If we're talking about what the best wedding is for a couple, it's what's important to them. It has no meddling friends, it has no parents and family being like, I'm paying for this, so I'm
Yeah.
guilting you into inviting these people. If we're looking at it from a guest perspective, the best weddings, in my opinion, have a really great dance floor and
Mhm.
a lot of time to, connect and be have a lot of fun.
Yeah, great answer. And now, if you had to choose between cocktail hour or dessert hour.
Cocktail hour. I would rather eat cocktail hour food for 2 hours than even have like a sit down meal. Just bring me to a cocktail hour wedding, honestly, and I would be good to go.
I like come to them with a game plan. Like I give my husband the game plan. I have to, because especially here, I know a lot of what the venues are like. So I'm like, all right, we're not going to be able to seat. So I'm going to need one hand free, the other hand with the plate. Like I like to really like make my plan.
And you got to walk the room because
Yeah,
sometimes the stations are like hidden in a corner and you're just like, you get to the end and you're like, I didn't even get to try that. And so, yeah, got to maximize the cocktail hour. It's something you got to
yeah.
strategize. I'm with you. And that's
One
important.
cocktail hour I went to, it felt like I was at World Showcase in Epcot. There were so many stations, and they had plates for cocktail hour that had a holder for the stem of your glass. So you had an extra hand. I know. I'm still
Oh my
still not over
goodness.
it.
Spread the word. Everybody needs that. The juggling, it's too much. And you're in a
Yes.
fancy dress, and then they're trying to do past hors d'oeuvres and hand you a
Yeah, and you're
napkin.
running
And
out
I'm
and
like,
there's
I
not
need a
always
napkin,
seats.
but with
Yeah.
what hand?
Yeah. Too funny. The last book you read.
I'm I'm reading Real Love by Rachel Lindsay from The Bachelorette. It's kind of like
Fantastic.
it's not a true story, but it's a little parallel to being on The Bachelorette, and
Yeah.
that's what I'm into.
Good. She knows her audience, you know. Give us what we want. When you're in the zone you're listening to.
Gilmore Girls in the
Yes.
background. I have
Yes.
watched all of Gilmore Girls, all 7 seasons. I don't even know, like 15 to 20 times. Like it is just background noise at this point. I don't need to watch
Well,
what's
that's why you
happening.
talk fast.
Yeah.
Gilmore.
That's so true. That's probably why.
And a social media profile you love is.
So many. I would say my friend Tori Kellner, Kelner, she's a photographer. I think what she does on TikTok, on Instagram, I mean, is amazing. She's always sharing her personal brand, but infusing it with all the incredible photos she's taking. And I use her as an example when people are struggling with, what do I write for captions, or how do I partner a personal brand with my actual business, especially when it's photos of just couples. So check her out. I think what she's doing is great.
Fantastic. Emily, this was so fun. I always laugh with you and enjoy my FaceTime with you. And all of the links to your social media are going to be in the show notes. And any final words you'd like to say?
Just thank you so much for having me. I'm just grateful that our paths have crossed and we've gotten to work together and that I could be here because you're right. It is always helpful to have somebody else that's not only just a social media manager, but like also, in the wedding space. So I'm so happy that I got to do this with you today.
Yes, guys, if you enjoyed this, be sure to send Emily a message and let her know. And we'll be back next Wedding Wednesday on the I Do Wedding Marketing podcast. Thank you.